All right, welcome to episode 2 of Diamond and Duds. I'm Ivan.
And I'm Charles.
And we are going to be We're going to be reviewing, talking about all under the sun, a movie, Cocaine Bear.
Yep. So spoiler alert, because this one only came out a couple years ago, so spoiler alert, if you have not seen Cocaine Bear, I would suggest going to watch it before you listen to it, but this...
And it's currently on, and we're recording this at the end of September of 2024, it's currently on Peacock, if anybody has a Peacock thingy.
Yep. Synopsis. A black bear goes on a rampage through the Georgia forest after ingesting a large amount of cocaine, as bears are wont to do.
Yeah, and is this the one? Didn't they say like inspired by a true story?
Yeah, well,
it's
like,
not really, but it's like they're
a bear
playing fast and loose.
Yeah, well, a bear basically, cocaine had fallen out of a plane. A dead bear was found with that had ingested, and obviously died like instantly.
Yeah, and one of the actors that was in this, I was super. That's the wrong way to phrase it. This was one of. At the time, everybody thought this was Ray Liotta's last movie. And obviously, I would have preferred not to have him pass. He's a great actor. But if you are going to have a last movie, I liked it. But now he has the Tyrese movie that just came out about, I don't know.
He might even have one more that still hasn't came out, because the actor who played, maybe it came out, I just didn't know. The actor who plays Charlie in It's Always Sunny directed Ray Liotta in a small budget independent movie, and I don't know if that came out just streaming quietly or not. So that might have already come out, or that might be coming out at some point.
But one of the things I will say is that our last movie we did was. Dark I was about to call it Dark Tower again. Dark Crystal, and basically our thing was, hey, Jim Henson did it.
Yeah.
And the guy from Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
Cocaine Bear is done by quite a. It's I don't know if you notice it's Charles, but you see
Elizabeth Banks. Brought to you by the director. Obviously, she's a prolific actress, but she is the director, spearhead, mind behind the Pitch Perfect franchise.
Yes, and I find her insanely funny. I was super excited to see that she had directed that she had directed this.
Yeah.
Kind of just looking at her, this is go gadget scroll wheel. Apparently, she directed a Charlie's Angels movie, but but it's. I like the fact that the cast in this movie is great. I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Most of them.
Most of it.
Vast majority, like more than you find in this kind of movie.
Yes.
I have two. I have two sliders, but you got Ray Liotta, you got O'Shea Jackson Jr., son of Ice Cube, Kerry Russell. She did pretty good. The always great. I love Margot Martindale. She's great in everything she does. Also, for Modern Family fans, Jesse Tyler Ferguson is in this in a very, very terrible week.
Yeah, and to be honest, I hadn't watched Modern Family because this was my second watch of this. When I hadn't watched Modern Family much, so when I first watched this movie, I had no idea that was him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And so, all right, well, let's get into the movie proper. First thing, I'm not gonna, all of my comments are not going to be negative. One of my very few comments, again, just tongue-in-cheek negative, is like, okay, can we try a little harder to make that look like an actual plane? I get in the beginning, I get it. You probably don't have a huge budget, so you got to make choices. And then it does not impact any kind of level of quality to me, especially because this type of movie, it's supposed to be dumb, it's supposed to be funny, so you kind of have that working for you. I'm just like, that doesn't even look a little bit like an actual plane.
But I also kind of like how they didn't waste time trying to. They didn't waste like 5 or 10 minutes. Hey, here's the pilot flying. Here's the pilot now.
Yeah.
Throwing bags out. I like how they just sort of got into it straight away.
Yep. And so we get the two hikers, husband and wife.
The one thing, and I didn't write it down, but they had a really what I thought was funny. Was this before or after the hiker thing? But they had that really big inspirational quote. than they said Wikipedia.
Yeah. That was really good.
I thought set the entire tone for what this movie is, and if you're going into this thinking anything's going to be serious, you're in for the wrong movie.
Yes. And so, for all of you Game of Thrones fans, the male hiker is played by the actor who played Tormund Giantsbane in a very, very different role. Yes. And we'll get to a little bit later on. I think he was a bit of a missed opportunity later in the. We'll get to that later. I didn't have an issue with him early. I missed out.
I haven't heard that. My guess is that he had some parts cut later on.
Yeah,
is my guess. But like you have this couple camping. They're talking about it sounds like they're going to be getting married. They have this really funny dialogue about how apparently Game of Thrones guy has like got to choose one thing for the wedding, and he chooses his brother's band, and like basically he's like, yeah, but your brother sucks. But he's like, I got to choose one thing, and she's like, yeah, we're not doing that because that's going to ruin all the other things. Yeah.
And then one thing, first time we saw the bear, like before the bear started doing anything, mind you, I'm like, is the bear on cocaine yet? And yeah, pretty sure it was clear the bear was already on cocaine. I also write, there better be a Winnie the Pooh reference in this movie. Spoiler alert, if there was, I did not catch one. I was a little disappointed.
One of the things, and this will kind of get a little insight into what I thought it kind of hit home is when the two hikers see the bear. I think the bear's supposed to be humping the tree.
Yeah, I think so.
They're taking pictures of it, and they're like not scared whatsoever. I don't know if my brother's going to remember this too much because he was a little bit younger at the time. When we were kids, our father, rest in peace, took us to our family. We went to the Badlands and Yellowstone and all that stuff. And one of the things on the side of the road, there was a buffalo. Yeah. And my dad, lo and behold, had one of those giant 80s camera rigs that people had back then. Actually, what Marty McFly had in Back to the Future. Yeah. If you're young and you don't know what we're talking about, what you see in the car there. So he promptly gets out of the damn camper and starts walking, and my mom's like throwing a fit because she's like, I don't. But that reminded me, and obviously that didn't happen to him. Yeah. But yeah, that's it. The first thing I thought of was that my dad would try and get a picture with her.
Yeah, so a bit of a public service announcement, folks. If you do go into the woods and you see a bear like 50 feet away, don't start walking closer to it, taking pictures and trying to get its attention.
It's not fluffy. It's not fluffy.
Yeah, it does not go well. It's not going to go well. Bears are not your friends.
Even if it's a nice bear, I mean, all you're going to do is piss it off.
Yep.
It doesn't want anything to do with you. It doesn't want to be on your Instagram.
Yeah. Even if it's not on cocaine, it's yeah. So and then after the female hiker gets shredded because I mean, really. Honestly, like, in terms of, like, genres, like, I went to this, this is a slasher movie. Yeah. You have your initial kill, you gather your cast of varying, cannon fodder to might survive, and then you root for, in this case, the bear to slaughter as many of them as possible in cool ways. It's a slasher movie.
Yeah, and what I end up doing, I don't know if you're like, what I end up doing with a lot of these movies, you end up picking your favorite people.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I want these people to survive. Obviously, kids in these movies, it's an unfair pick. I don't think you get as many points because most of the time they're not going to kill the children.
Yeah, no.
One thing I thought was interesting is as it started showing as the plane crashed, I thought it was interesting seeing all the what we call old news footage and actually showing, was that Tom Brokaw?
Yeah.
On there for one, kind of trying to drive home that, hey, this could have happened.
This actually, part of this actually did happen. Kind of thing. So then the detective I referred to, in this particular scene, I refer to him as Detective Exposition. because but the rest of the movie, I refer to him as Detective Sadness or Detective Depression, because he's very clearly holding on to his life by a very thin thread.
And I want to look up, this actor looks very familiar, and I've seen the meme of him saying shit, but I don't know what that's from, so I want to look that up at some point.
Yeah.
But the thing I thought was, I agree, it's kind of detective, because what I like that Elizabeth Banks and the writer did in this is like, let's not waste time on stuff that the audience isn't going to give two shits of. They very easily here could have wasted 5 or 10 minutes going through like police work to determine who that parachute guy was. Yeah. They're like, no, it's just easier if the cop knows him. Yeah. Cop knows him, that cuts out 10 minutes that we can spend with more fun stuff.
And I think that the detective's performance comes off as very wooden and not very good. However, I do think this is by design. The detective, because I've seen that actor in other stuff. He is good. I think the detective knew the assignment, and he knew this is a cheesy, and he knew. So I think it's an intentional choice of him. I also want that Detective Exposition has a wise ass for a partner. And it's like right away he's cracking wise ass.
And I did think that the whole dog thing, where I think later on, I forget if it's here or if it's in a little bit, I thought that was very funny how he called the dog place to find out if he had like a defective dog because it wouldn't fetch. And you go see the dog later, and it's what kind of dog? It's like some little toy poodle or something. I'm probably getting the dog name wrong.
It happened a little. Yeah, it happened. Just that was the next scene that he was in. Yes, because right now he's at the crime scene right now. Then the next scene in just a little bit. Yeah, is what he's like. And that's when I switch him over to Detective Sadness, because I'm like, this guy very clearly he's holding on.
I was supposed to get a Labrador.
And like I'm told, like they're like they can be your buddy. I'm like, oh, this guy has no friends. This guy has nothing.
And that was delivered because you so believed it.
Yeah.
That then takes us to Ray Liotta, who meets with O'Shea Jackson.
And like a Chuck E. Cheese.
They're like in a Chuck E. Cheese or something. And basically I think what the crux of this scene is supposed to basically get over to you is that Ray Liotta's son's also involved in this drug stuff. His wife died. Ray Liotta's glad that his son's wife died.
Yeah.
And that he's really mad that he has to watch his grandson, who apparently he doesn't like whatsoever.
Yeah,
but like what I love about this though is the grandson seemed to be just this happy, joyous kid. He's not even doing anything wrong.
He's just happily playing in the ball pit. He's a good kid. Yeah, and so like really, what part of me is like, so like gotta love a little. You always gotta love Ray Liotta. May he rest in peace. Whatever he does, he does really well. I still think he was screwed out of an Oscar nomination for Blow years ago. Probably a bunch of other things. But the next scene. This is the next scene that like they go. So O'Shea Jackson, who I really enjoyed in this movie, he goes to meet Ray Liotta's son, who, like, when I said most of the cast, I was referring to two people. One of them gets a pass because one of them the performer is like 10 or something. But the guy who plays Ray Liotta's son does not get a pass. This is one of the absolutely terrible performance, especially in the beginning. During the rest of the movie, it becomes neutral, but he plays like the sadness just so bad it gets so other wrong. And he's at a dive bar doing shots while eating a bowl of penne pasta.
Which I like that scene because of the other parts to it, like the shot. Like he kind of grew on me, and to be honest, by that point I was kind of all in.
Oh yeah, same
kind of thing, and.
And honestly, in a movie like this, like if you have like a wooden actor, especially when you have so much of the cast as really really experienced professionals, if you have a wooden cast member or two in like something like that, it doesn't really bring you down.
No, I don't think that did that here because, and I as I said with the last podcast. I'm horrible with names, so I end up kind of naming stuff as I'm going through.
Yeah.
Later on, we're going to see 3 hooligans. I called them Kid 1, Kid 2, and Kid 3.
I call one Slim Shady.
Yeah, and so I think Eddie, who's Ray Liotta's son, I did like the chemistry that he had with Kid 1.
Slim Shady, yeah.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah, but back to the pasta. Well, one, and this is obviously an intentional choice. These are the choices in terms of comedy. But like, one, if you're at a dive bar eating, like, you're drinking your sorrows away because like your wife died and like you're ignoring your kid, and you're doing shots like one like penne pasta. But I love how like they focus on the penne pasta. A lot of the shots like the penne pasta is running forward, and then O'Shea Jackson says, "Can I get a bowl of the penne?" I'm just like. Oh, just like shots of like Jack or more, whatever it was, mixing with just a big bowl of cheesy pasta. Oh, that went wrong later in the day off camera, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, also ordering something like, because wasn't that like a fettuccine kind of sauce?
Yeah, it was a cream sauce.
So isn't cream like milk based?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm kind of done with cooking. I don't know if I'd be ordering something milk based from a dive bar.
Exactly. It's like bad decision all around.
But
okay.
And one of the things, then right around this time too, we get introduced to Carrie Russell and her daughter. I believe it was Dee Dee.
Yep.
Sounds like Carrie Russell's like divorced or husband passed. They didn't get too much into that. And again, I think single mom, I think it was the kind of thing where, hey, she's a single mom, we're not diving into. It sounds like nothing. They didn't dive into that it was a bad relationship. They just said, hey, she's a single mom, we're going forward from there, which is perfectly fine.
But even before that, before we get to, we also got the second detective scene, the one where he calls, the one where he's like, he talks about, okay, he's going to go to, Georgia, and I think they're like, he's going to go to Georgia, try to find, like, okay, which makes it, but like he calls, and like when he's calling, and he's like, talking about, saying like, because like he was supposed to get a lab, because like he hears that they'll be your best friend. I'm just like, this is like the most pathetically sad character ever.
I thought
I'm rooting. I want you to die horribly. I'm rooting for the bear.
But I thought it was all. What I also liked about that wasn't that the scene where he's like, man, I didn't get a chance to tell her goodbye, to the dog too, which I thought.
And it really gross because then he calls the dog from the side of the road later on.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So then, so Carrie Russell basically it looks like they're setting up, daughter to go off to
it sounds
go
like
into the woods alone.
Well, it sounds like they had intention, like they had plans. The mother had an idea to go to, I think it was Nashville or something.
Yeah.
Nashville,
make a weekend of it.
Make a weekend, which sounds fun. As we know now, even if the Bears weren't on cocaine, that would have been a dangerous goddamn thing to go to.
Yep.
But yeah,
and really, one thing I was okay. So they the kids go play hooky, right? And Carrie Russell, like I have one really glaring issue I have with Mom. And it's just, again, this is because it's supposed to be a comedy. It's not an issue I have with the movie. So Mom comes home, okay? She gets a big old huge glass of wine with ice. I mean, wine with ice.
That was. I've never been a big wine drinker. Obviously, I know that's not what you're supposed to. But I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, but not only that, but I'm like, this made me really, really judge going forward her character as a human being, because her daughter, she just then gets the phone call that her daughter is absent from school, which means this isn't 4:00 in the afternoon. Okay, she poured this huge heaping glass of wine with ice at like 8 or 9 in the morning. I'm like, good Lord!
And I thought her reaction to the old school phone ringing was hilarious.
Yeah. Just thought and then we meet obviously the girl's partner in crime. I don't have an issue with the actor performer. He's a kid. He did fine. I wanted Henry as a character to straight up die in this movie. I'm not gonna lie. I was rooting for him to die. I don't think it's a fault of the actor. I just wanted him to die.
I was at the complete other aspect of it. I thought he was hilarious. I thought his point, like some of the drug stuff later was pretty. I thought he delivered it pretty well. Like his line he gave later to the Modern Family guy, which we'll jump ahead a second here, where he's in a tree, the Modern Family guy climbs up in the other tree, and he's like, "Hey, bears can't climb trees, right?" And the Modern Family guy goes, "Yeah, they can." And so Henry's like, "Well, then why'd you climb up your tree?" And he has his look on his face like.
I will say this movie it had me like I was already in, I was already in, but when they planning session in the writer's room. Okay, so the kids are gonna find this brick of cocaine, right? Find this brick of cocaine, and we got Elizabeth Banks, we got the writers, So what are they gonna do when they just decide? You know what? They're gonna cut it open and they're gonna try to eat a huge thing of cocaine.
Well, no,
I'm like, awesome. They had the kids do cocaine.
Well, what I thought was funny too is you see this, you're like, okay, how far are they going to take this?
Yeah.
And then Henry's like, oh, I've done cocaine. I've done cocaine lots. And she's like, well, how much should I do? I don't know, a tablespoon. I'm like, wait, I've never done cocaine, but that sounds like entirely way too much cocaine to do.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious that they just try to eat it.
Yes. And just for those of you that are listening to this and have not seen the movie, these kids are supposed to be like 12. Definitely not pre-teens, which they spit most of it out. But I mean, come on, even they try to eat it with a knife, like a big old spoonful, like you're eating a thing of sugar. Like they spit it out, obviously, because again, we don't use drugs, but we have seen movies and we know that's not how you do it. So they spit it out, but we're sure that they got some of it in.
Well, then I thought they had a couple funny lines shortly after this, before the bear kind of comes into the scene, where I wrote down the line, I forget who says it, where they say, "Hey, let's sell drugs together."
Yeah.
Which also is not a line you would normally see 12-year-olds say in a movie. And then Henry goes, "Do you think my dad's done cocaine?" And he's like, "Your dad's definitely done cocaine."
Yeah. Makes me like, oh man, I wish we had met Henry's dad. So the bear says, I'm like, "Go bear, kill the kids." There's something broken inside me. Yeah, I'm like, this movie gains points for the kids doing coke.
Yeah, and then we're kind of at the kind of setting up phase, and I think at this point is when all hell's breaking loose.
Well, we're still we're now as a kid coming, we're the rest of the peripherals are getting to.
That's a good point.
We meet the worst gang ever.
the gang of ruffians that are hanging out at the local.
Yeah, the local ranger shop.
Looking to steal the $3.20 she has in the poor lockbox.
Yeah, good Lord. And again, I call the main one. I was referring to as Slim Shady because I don't know if he's I don't know if Slim Shady didn't come to Georgia until 2020 or whatever. But I'm like, dude, that bleached hair is 15 years too late.
I couldn't remember their names, so I named him Kid 1, and he wasn't overweight, but kind of the bigger the bigger kid of the three was Kid 2, and the kid who, spoiler, loses his head eventually was Kid 3.
Yeah,
he kind of looked like Ethan Embry a bit.
It is.
And actually, I thought that the one you're calling Slim Shady, I thought acted and talked a lot like Matthew Lillard. He reminded me a lot of Matthew Lillard.
So we get another shot of Detective Pathetic is driving up, and I think this is when he stopped and called his dog, and I was like, God, this guy's sad. But also I'm like, he said he's going to the woods to find that cocaine, but he's still in his full-on, suit. I'm like, dude, this guy's not dressed for the woods at all.
No, I don't think he planned this through. I think he's, because also keep in mind, we live kind of in the Southwest, so we might not know our geography well, but the plane crashed in Tennessee, and he's going to Georgia.
Yeah. Oh, and there's another aspect of that relates to the geography later that kind of made me question.
But this is where I think at right around this also, I think, is when you see Cube O'Shea Jackson.
Yeah.
And you see O'Shea Jackson and Eddie arrive there too. Mm-hmm. We have the instance in the bathroom.
Oh yeah, where like O'Shea does some work on those wannabe gangsters.
Yeah, and he just has the worst. The worst. He has the worst luck.
It's like, I just like how it's like, man, my jersey. It's like, like a bit of a Charlie Brown. Like, just like, man, just like, that feeling like, oh, okay, well, this is just bad now.
No, yeah, and I thought that the point of that fight scene was just to show that the three were dum-dums and didn't get their ass kicked, basically.
Yeah, and then to then partner those two with Slim Shady, the one that then we get the worst Ranger ever, good old Margot, which she's a gem. She's great at everything she does. Goes with her weird hippie buddy, and to go out and Kerry Russell.
What was the show she was in? She got nominated for a bunch of. Was that Timothy Olyphant?
She was in season 2 of Justified.
That's what I was thinking.
Among all kinds of other things. But
yeah.
She was. One of our first introductions to her was season 2 of Justified.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, the season with Jeremy Davies. Jeremy Davies continued past that on the show a little bit. But like then they go and then like they encounter the bear. I was like, hey, good. It's been too long since a death. Then like as soon as like she started shooting and almost like shot her like boyfriend, I'm like, dude, worst Ranger ever.
Oh yeah, yeah, and especially like when she's going up and they're like, and was it Kerry Russell was with them at this point?
Yeah, Kerry Russell.
Kerry Russell joined in. She's like, wait, you have a gun? She's like, yeah, I'm a peace officer. I get to carry a gun. I'm like, oh, this ain't going great.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, she does not do well with that gun. I tell you that. Because. And then, there was what we talked about earlier with the treeing. They find Henry, and, the Jesse Tyler Ferguson gets treed, and Henry ends up getting split off with Kerry Russell and Jesse Tyler. I'm like, okay, good. It's been a while since the death, but you get that. You get that lull in Slash movies while you're setting everything up, setting the table up. What
I find important about these kind of movies, too, is you have to care a little bit about the characters as, like, the ones like this where people are just dying indiscriminately and just you don't even know who they are. Yeah. I have trouble liking them because it's like you get invested a little bit in this. Because what I also found funny about Peter from Modern Family is like when Henry's talking about how the bear attacked us. He's like, no, bears are loving creatures. Yeah. They don't. He's like, no, this one's messed up. And then he falls into the cocaine.
Yeah, and then I love how they just have the bear just beeline the bear smelled that cocaine.
Yes, and I thought that was really, and so that partners up then Kerry Russell and what's his name? Henry. And then the what do you call it? Liz goes back to the Ranger house. Yeah,
where you have the two others, and then you have the bear attack there. And I will say, one thing I wrote there is this bear has better instincts than Michael Myers. Oh. Like the bear, you hear the bear on the roof and what. I'm like, damn, this bear's awesome.
One of the parts I thought was insanely funny, so I got to give props for the writer or the director, whoever put this in. Yeah. Was that there's the what do you call it? I call Kid 2 the bigger, buffier, the more buff one of the three is in the office. He had just called an ambulance. Yeah. And she comes in and Liz comes in. Of course, she's just been ripped by a bear. Yeah. And she's like, we need to call an ambulance. He's like, oh, I did. And then the guy's like, oh, did he get you too? And she's like, yeah, took a giant bite out of me. And the guy's like, holy fuck, this guy's crazy. Yeah. And I thought throwing in something as simple as that's my kind of humor.
Yeah, and then I love, bear comes, shit starts to go down. Margot accidentally, blows the head off one of them. One of the other gang members, which I thought was great. Again, she's like the worst Ranger ever.
Yes.
And I also said, at this point, I'm like, you know what? Before the end of this movie, I need to get a bear versus Ray Liotta fight scene, or I'm going to be very unhappy. So And then hey, they have the ambulance come up, pull up. I'm like, hey, more cannon fodder.
Oh, and one thing I will put that I wrote down in my notes, you mentioned that Liz kills the kid too.
Yeah.
What I found hilarious is he opens up the door and he goes, "That's a fucking bear."
Yeah.
And he probably gets shot in the back of the head.
Yeah. I also like when the ambulance people come and they're looking, because looking around we got called for a concussion, and they're looking at the kid half of his head gone.
And I don't know if this actor had done more, because this movie came out in January of 2023,
yeah,
which meant it probably would have been filmed a year or two roughly before. What I found interesting is that actor who played the male ambulance guy,
yeah,
was all over TikTok. I don't know if he was he was all over TikTok. I haven't seen him much. He's probably in acting legitimate. No, not either. In acting now. But I know when I saw this with our sister Rita, both her and I, when we saw that guy, were like, oh, it was very cool to see kind of expanding some of the acting stuff for that.
Yeah. So then we have the entire extended scene where the bears, the bear chases them in the ambulance. Margot's shooting from she's strapped up, strapped up in the gurney, and spoiler alert, so obviously in both, ambulance, people die, and Margot gets a little bit of a skin.
This is one of the funniest scenes in movies in the last couple years, in my opinion. I forget the song that was underneath it, but the song choice they picked was perfect. Yeah. That's a big thing for me, and it's something I've always believed should be an Oscar category, is picking songs for the, not necessarily, writing a song for a movie is important, but picking the right song for the right moment is super important for movies. And I forget what the song was. I should have written it down, but I thought that was amazing.
After that, we get some, quality weird bonding session between Dive Bar Pasta Man and the Slim Shady gangbanger, which was that was really enjoyable.
And they're kind of teaming up on O'Shea Jackson, which I found very funny.
Yeah,
very funny too. Yeah.
Yeah. So then they all converge with Detective Pathetic at the gazebo.
And which I find funny is that the detective went straight to the gazebo.
Yeah. How did he know?
And obviously the three dum-dums didn't hide the drugs very well. He saw him plain as day.
Yeah, and so that entire extended thing was funny. I love, he shot off a couple of O'Shea's fingers, and Slim Shady said he was acknowledging that was the point. How did that even happen? They're not connected.
They're not even next to each other.
That was really well delivered. Just letting people no, that wasn't a goof. That's that was the point. And then the whole funny standoff, and then in comes the bear again, looking for some cocaine. So, which was great, and then the bear passes out.
Yes, and I also was that before or after they gave where they gave the bear the drugs? They gave the bear the drugs after that, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
because that was kind of before they gave the bear the drugs. Because the bear got it. The bear was just dancing around, and then the bear passed out. Once the bear got back up, they gave the bear the drugs. Yeah, it was right around that. They're all at the same time.
Yeah, because the parts I thought were hilarious at the scene was they give him the drugs, and then at that point, O'Shea Jackson and the cop are working together, and he's like, "Hey, should we shoot the bear?" And the cop's like, "No, I want to see where this goes."
Yeah, I want to see how this plays out. Yeah, and then the bear passes out right on top of Dive Bar Pasta, which is just. How do you know it's a girl? Because the bear's vagina was up against his
ear.
Ear. I think is what he said, which was funny. And then Slim Shady, one of the weird things about this movie. Slim Shady gets permission to go, and he disappears from the movie. We don't see him after that.
I think there's an after credits scene.
Oh, okay.
With him. Because I want to say I thought I saw him getting into a truck, hitchhiking or something, but I might be mixing movies. I think there's a post-credit scene.
Oh, okay.
Basically, I think he hightailed the shit out of it.
Yeah, basically, that's what I would sure what I would have done. So that so that all kind of thing comes down, and eventually, Detective Pathetic gets shot long range.
Yep.
By Ray Liotta, which brings up my other geographical thing. Okay, so my understanding, I believe they were in, Ray Liotta was in St. Louis,
yes.
right? So he sends O'Shea and his son, and Dibar Pasta to go get this. And then we always knew that Ray Liotta was going to end up in the woods too. I mean, obviously that was going to happen. But if you think about the logistical timeline, it's not like O'Shea and Diver Pasta have been here for days upon days upon days, not getting results. They haven't been in the forest.
No,
so Ray Liotta gave up on them within an hour. And said, "Screw it, I'm just going to."
Well, and I find it funny also. And this, I kind of have a sick sense of humor, where Eddie or Dive Bar Pasta asks his dad, what about my son? Where's my son at? And he's like, he's fine. He's in front of the TV.
Yeah, I like that.
Where it's basically meaning he left a 9-year-old home alone and went 3 states away or wherever the hell it is.
Yeah, to a whole other region. Went to the southeast. But I mean, he is, He is a mafia gang type of person. So, and so all along this time we've been getting scenes interspersed of Kerry Russell and Henry following the trail, and they run into Tormund Giant Spain again, and
which for people who are there's the red-haired husband or whatever from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, and just the one thing that I think was a missed opportunity, and this is just from a tonal standpoint, is I think it would have been funnier because they showed him that he was a little off at that point. They should have, I think, gone all in and just had him be totally flipping crazy. Not dangerous crazy, but I think that they kind of showed that a little bit, but maybe just really push that farther is the only thing.
Yeah, and I haven't heard that, but my guess is from a time aspect, because this movie is just about 95 minutes.
About 90 minutes, yeah, 90 minutes.
My guess is that in the intro, I would gamble that there's probably additional scenes with him after, because I think he gets killed by a bear or by Ray Liotta's group, one of the two.
The bear. The
bear, and then the Ray Liotta's group finds him.
Yes.
My guess is that there's more stuff there.
Probably.
But it's probably hey, at this point we need to get him.
Yeah, a movie like this, you really want to be a tight 90. You don't want to be it too.
Especially the ending of this movie, I find that they absolutely freaking nailed it. Because not to skip ahead, it's hey,
we're getting there.
We're Kerry Russell, Henry find Dee Dee in the cave.
Yeah.
And one of the funniest parts of the movie is that initially Kerry Russell and Henry are scared, but she's like, no, they're just kids. And you find the bear cubs just going ape shit on cocaine.
Yeah, they're they almost look like goddamn polar bears. And so I'm like, oh, yes. I'm like cocaine bear cubs. And I imagine even kids are on cocaine are fun. Okay, the bear tripping is pretty funny, So, I really I felt the weird, and at this point I'm wait, where did she come from? I'm specifically referring to the partner. Where did she, first of all, it's where did she come from? Wait, she's in the pocket. And this was a little bit early, but oh, that's right. I'm not interested enough to care about her.
And then
I don't care about her.
And then that was kind of I like the actress. I thought she played it fine. I was also hey, so Ray Liotta has someone in the or whatever jurisdiction in Tennessee when he's in St. Louis.
Yeah.
But maybe Ray Liotta's character's all over the kite. I just sort of, hey, everybody in the movie was good with it, so am I.
Yeah. So we have the climax of the movie where Ray Liotta and company. There's one more hanging duffel bag of cocaine. Then there's Kerry Russell and them, and then you got the Cubs.
There's, in my opinion, might be the best line uttered in movie history.
Yeah.
And it's by the character that you're not a huge fan of,
yeah.
Pasta.
Dive bar pasta.
Dive bar pasta. Dad, just give them the cocaine already. They're just babies.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought might have been one of the best lines ever uttered, and I'm pretty sure that line had never been uttered in human history until then.
Probably not.
And we are back. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty by me accidentally hitting the damn enter button on my keyboard. So I think we were about wrapping this up.
Yeah.
We had talked about Ray Liotta and them had found Kerry Russell and them at the thing. So yeah, I think at that point Kerry Russell and the kids just fucking jump into the water.
Yeah. And I will say, like, going back in terms of, you said the great quote by Dive Bar Pasta, my issues with him are really just that opening delivery. So he was fine the rest of the movie. And you're right, that was a great thing. I was like, when Ray Liotta then shot Cocaine Bear, I was like, no, leave Cocaine Bear alone. And then he starts kicking the Cubs away. I'm like, leave Cocaine Cubs alone.
Yeah, and I thought this wrapped up perfect. Obviously, you needed Ray Liotta's character to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, no more characters died or anything. They kind of had their fun. I thought it was funny that Eddie ended up with the dog.
With the dog. Yeah.
I thought it was really messed up that the partner just sort of let the dog go.
Yeah. That was kind of weird. That was kind of messed up. And then the end of the movie with the showing Kerry Russell and the kids heading back and passing the ambulance. I'm not gonna lie, I was wondering for a brief moment because when Margot skidded down, because so far up until that point, a common theme with Margot is she kept on getting injured but not killed, a couple of different times, and so they sort of skidding. But I was wondering when they were passing back, are we gonna find out that Margot had actually survived? I'm like, okay, no, she was skidding. That face has probably been to me. So.
No, yeah, and I thought it wrapped up. To kind of give my wrap up of it, I thought I saw this. This was the second time I'd seen it. I'd seen it with my sister once upon a time when it came out. I didn't know what to expect going into it, and I was pleasantly surprised by one of the most fun times I'd had at a theater in a long time. I love that this movie knew what it was. I love that they hey, we're about the gore. We're about the funny lines. We're not going to waste your time with stuff. Yeah. And we know why you're coming to the theater.
Yeah, exactly. The same kind of thing for me. This was my first time seeing it. It was a check your brain at the door. We're gonna go, all out, just absolute nonsense, absolute buffoonery in the best way. I thought it was a really entertaining, good time.
No, and I would be interested. Yeah, if there's other ones along to this, but also I'm very interested in whatever Elizabeth Banks directs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too into the Pitch Perfect kind of stuff, which I'm not saying they're not good. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But I think this proved that she can direct multiple types of genres, and I'd be very, very interested to see other stuff.
So, diamond or dud?
This is a diamond.
Yeah. What was your ranking?
I'd probably give it a 4, which on our scale of 1 to 5, 5's the best, 1's the worst, kind of thing. Only because I can't imagine this being a perfect movie, but this is something that I will absolutely watch over and over and over again.
Yeah, and so it is a diamond for me too. When I first finishing it, I was like, okay, this is a diamond about 3.5. Reflecting in the aftermath, I would say I kind of pushed it up to a 4. Okay. And so, yeah, it's definitely down. Just highly entertaining, just absolute buffoonery, and going for we're just going to the wall. So
well, also stuff like that ambulance scene where the bear just suddenly does this giant jump and catches a car that's going 40 miles an hour.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. I found myself, even though I knew it was coming on the second time, just laughing out loud like crazy.
Yeah, and it was just a smart decision by the creators. All right, we know what we're doing. We need to not at any point in the movie make an attempt for bear realism. We need this bear is eating cocaine and killing and going on a rampage killing people. There at no point in the movie needs to be any kind of realistic behavior by this bear, and that was a good.
And in fact, I think that's what the purpose of the Modern Family character was, because the Modern Family character tried to, for a second, institute, hey, no, bears aren't that bad, and then promptly got just slaughtered.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I think that wraps us up for this. Couple things. We've picked our next movie. I've never seen.
I don't think you've seen either.
I have never seen it either. I'm pretty excited.
Called They Live.
Obviously, most of you have probably seen it. Starring Roddy Piper from the 80s, has a lot of good lines. It was just one of the
Keith
things.
David, too.
Oh, nice.
I think so.
But it's one of those movies that we've always heard good things about, but just had never seen. So that is next on the list.
Yeah, and I'm excited because, one, just being from childhood a big wrestling fan. So stay tuned next time. It is on Peacock, and as was this movie. Stay tuned next time as we're going to try to kick ass and chew bubblegum.
Have a good one.